everyone. This is another Freedom to Feel conversation, and my guest today is Jacqueline Hofste. Jacqueline is an ontological leadership coach, facilitator, speaker, and the author of The Free Spirit of Your Life Purpose, unlocking the genius plan of your life purpose with the power of your archetypes. So, this is my brief introduction of you, Jacqueline, but the full bio will be at the end of the video, as I mentioned off record. But now, my main fundamental question that I already talked to you off record, who is Jacqueline?
Thanks for giving me the opportunity to be here today.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're starting off with a really good question. So, who is Jacqueline? I think I was always very curious to explore what's in the a part of life that's not obvious. And as a child, it started, I was dreaming, I was imaginary. I thought there is something else, and I couldn't really grasp it. And obviously, children have a different sort of experience and perspective. And I was always drawn, there is some information in this world that I want to find out about.
Yeah.
And I always had a sense of there is something bigger. We used to call it God, some call it source, or so different names for the similar thing. And so my intention was always to gain wisdom. I had a very spiritual grandfather, and
Yeah.
when he passed away, it was one of these deaths that were very, you could say magical. He was,
Yeah.
and that has sort of imprinted me, that I said to myself, I made a decision, I want to die like him, which means I have to live,
Yeah.
I have to live the middle part to be able to die
Yes.
like this. So that
Uh,
got me to study science and physics, and it's the science part, but also the spiritual part. So I think specifically
yeah.
for me, physics is touching on the spiritual side of things. Many of the main big physicists, and not all, they had
Yeah.
that aspect of themselves as well. And I learned a lot about intuition through my grandmother, and
Yeah.
emotions through my mother. So I was always
Mm.
exploring the part of life that is dark, that's mystical, that's not understood, and that keeps us wandering, and it's unknown, and sometimes it's scary. And
Mm.
I like to bring structure, a little bit of structure and knowing into this part. So that's probably me in a nutshell. And I love to pass,
Uh,
I love to discuss it. I love challenging conversations, and I love to
mm.
pass whatever I know on to others.
Yeah.
And I learn as much from my clients as they hopefully learn from me as well.
Yes. Wow, that's beautiful to hear. That's really the art of being open, isn't it? And I always say
Yeah.
that receptive to the experience, which we call life. That's beautiful. You caught my attention with your grandfather when you start talking about him and the way he lost the body, I say usually. So
Mm.
can you share a little bit more of that? I just became very curious about it. How did he die? And I love the way you say that too. In order to die the way he did, I need to live the way he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, um, wow, I didn't expect this question. I loved my grandfather. He was one of the closest people in my world, and he was a very simple man.
Yeah.
And he had this wisdom, which as a child always dumbfounded me, because he didn't study, he didn't go anywhere. The only book he ever read was the Bible.
Yes.
And I was always, mysticized by how
Yeah.
come does he have this wisdom? People would come and ask him for advice, and yet he was the most simplest man you can think of.
Yeah.
And I had a deep connection with him. And when his time came that he was passing, my grandmother just give us all time with him. And I was sitting at his bed, and he
Yeah.
was so
Mm.
present, so calm, so peaceful.
Yeah.
And it was just such an impressive moment that I will never ever forget in my whole life. And I'm so grateful that this is the way we could experience it. I
Ah,
also understand a lot of other people have suffering going towards their passing,
yeah.
but he wasn't suffering. I don't
Ah,
even know why he
yes.
passed. Some people, they
Right.
say, my time is up. I think it's time to go, and they
Yeah.
curl over and they pass. And that's
Right.
what it basically was with my grandfather. And he was more sort of, from a biblical sense, the Joseph type, the
Mm,
masculine type who is in the background, who is quite kind and gentle, but still masculine. He
mm,
could speak up and and protect his family during the war,
yeah.
but he was very kind and gentle,
Ah,
and he had no grudges.
ah, yes.
And I think that was my message, because the priest said that he's never helped someone pass over who had no grudges, no guilt, nothing that he regretted. He was just so peaceful. And I thought,
Mm,
okay, if I don't want to have any grudges, I have to let go. So
yeah.
I think that was my message that
Yes.
he gave to me. It was very beautiful. Yeah.
Wow. And, it makes me think about when you speak of simplicity. So, carrying this simple life. And I wonder what that means. I know that the way you speak, it seems like he was not really interested in so many things. That most of us are very interested knowledge, in complex type of knowledge. So, would you say that this crave, or perhaps the longing to know and to keep knowing, accumulating knowledge, gets in the way of wisdom, which I could translate as having just the realization of certain knowledge, fundamental knowledge, and then applying them. What would you say, Jacqueline?
Yeah, I do agree. Knowledge can be in the way, and we're obviously living right now in the technology age. We have so much knowledge as at our fingertips. When I studied, there was no internet. You had to go to a library, and maybe the book that you wanted wasn't there, and all of it. So knowledge wasn't at your fingertips,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure what the impacts will be, that we have knowledge at our fingertips all the time. Just Google it and something will come up. But
Yes.
that's not wisdom. And
Mm,
wisdom is really going past knowledge and the application. And for me, wisdom is also looking from a bigger picture.
uh,
Um,
yeah.
and I
Yeah.
do have this
Yes.
spiritual tendency in the spiritual view, and I think this is part of it. How can I apply it? How can I become a better person? How can I be more present? How can I be more authentic?
Yeah.
And how can I be more self-expressed, more courageous?
Yeah.
And this all plays part in it, and that actually means often, and I have to
Mm,
remind myself, it means drop the knowledge,
yes.
just be. And I love your questions, because your questions are very much in the moment, and connect with what's behind the spoken word. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that's for some reason. And that's kind of a mystery too, isn't it, Jacqueline? We don't know why we develop these interests. Like in my case, I know suffering has seems like it has played a part, but to go deeper, to just understand why I suffered, why I went through the things I did, and people around me, why they behave the way they do, and all that. But in the end, we don't really know why we express ourselves the way we do, and that's why I take the expression as the truth. Oh, okay, this is it. And it's fun. And it becomes fun for some reason. Okay, it's almost like watching a movie of myself just expressing these things that I have no idea where they come from. So you do speak of that. Something that caught my attention immediately was the intuitive mind.
Yeah.
So you say in your bio, I think in the website or the bio you sent me says Jacqueline's methods are based on tapping into the intuitive mind and understanding the human psyche. So talk to me a little bit more about the intuitive mind. How do we tap into it? Most of us.
One of my favorite topics. As I mentioned, yeah, my grandmother was very intuitive. And she had, and back in the days, we thought, oh, maybe it's just her. And she was able to save the whole family from being bombed during the Second World War. This was one of her things where she sensed 2 weeks ahead of time that the house will be bombed on a certain day, and she got everything ready, and she got little food packages done for her kids and everything, because there's nothing you can do. And this was one of the experiences we had, and I was fascinated by it. And I just told myself, if I'm her grandchild, so I'm sure I've got that gift as well. So
Yes.
I talked myself into it, but now I know everyone has it.
Yes.
It's a matter of acknowledging it. It's a matter of listening it, and it comes to us in many different ways. For me, it's often a clear voice.
Yeah.
It tells me, go left, pick this up, take
Mm.
this, do this. And these days, for me, it's a little bit also like a game. I love this, when I
Yeah.
get this intuitive sit, try
Yeah.
this, do this. I mean, there were
Yeah.
times when I didn't listen to it, and then I realized, I should have listened to it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I actually have a master class on how to tap into intuition more, and
Yes.
there are many aspects to it. But the first aspect is to learn and understand, how does intuition talk to you, because it's
Mm.
different. Some
Yeah.
people get visions.
Yeah.
I don't get visions. I get a voice, and it comes from the right side. It swishes sort of like this. So it's different. And then also playing this game of listening to it and doing what
Right.
the intuition tells you. And with my clients, and also with myself, I get this all the time, that, let's say they were in a relationship that wasn't really good for them.
Yeah.
And I said, did you not notice something? And they said, oh,
Mhm.
yes, of course. And I wished I had listened to it, but I
Yeah.
didn't.
Yes.
And one good tip, I mean, insight or aspect of intuition is, it always tells you at the time what's the best thing for you to do, the best move.
Yeah.
And I've learned to trust it. So there's so many aspects of intuition, and I love I just love it, because when you start listening to it more and more, you tap into some knowledge that's, we're talking about knowledge,
Yeah.
um, that is a lot bigger than what we can see here or
Right.
tap into here,
Yeah.
and it always guides you to the right place.
Mm.
So it's, I see it also a bit as a fun game.
Yes, I noticed that too. It's fun because it never gives you the entire picture too. It's always one hint at a time. It's almost making it playful, almost on purpose. It seems to me. Does it make sense to you, Jacqueline?
It does. I actually love the way that you said playful. I
Yeah,
mean, that is so true.
yeah,
And I used to sometimes, and I still sometimes do it. I used to argue with this voice.
yeah. I
It would
can
tell me,
imagine.
do this.
Yeah,
And I would say, why should I do this? I've
yeah.
just done this. Now you want me to do this again?
Yes,
And then I do
yeah.
it again, and oh yeah, oh right, oh
That's
yeah,
it.
I get it.
Yeah.
But I have these arguments, and then I have to laugh about myself that I argue with my own intuition.
Yes.
But understanding this is also important, because then I know, okay,
Yeah.
I'm arguing again, let it go, just do what it says.
Yes. Follow the voice.
Yeah, follow the voice.
How do we know the difference? I know it's something that's always guiding us to the right place, and seems to be playful, loving from my perspective. That's I see that too. But how do we know most people who have not been practicing and want to practice this listening to their own intuition, how do we know, how do they know the difference between the logical mind and the human psyche, which is
Mm,
exactly that, also the voices, the external voices, all the influences, and the archetypes. Then that's the big one, right? That's here playing big roles. So, what's the main practice? Would you say meditation? What would get us to listen to that very subtle, intimate voice of intuition?
I mean, reflection and meditation is definitely a huge aspect and training, and it's very good for our own well-being to actually to take time off and reflect.
Yeah.
And with intuition, it is true there are so many different distractors. Like there could be the logical mind, as I said, me arguing,
Yes.
or
Yes.
I could be, listening to the wrong thing, and there is a little bit of practice involved to distinguish,
Yeah.
but intuition always comes with a level of freedom. Sort
Mm,
of when I follow my intuitive
mm,
mind, there is a peace and freedom, even if I have to let go of something that I think is
yes.
good for me or I really want. There is a level of freedom in it. Like for example, when I left the corporate world and became a coach. It wasn't on my horizon. It wasn't the thing I wanted to do because I had a really great job and I was really enjoying it. It was a bit stressful at times, but not too bad. And I had a really good income, and I felt this calling,
Yeah.
this calling to
Mm,
fine tune my craft and go more specific into coaching.
yeah.
And I did a lot of mentoring at the time, and there was resistance. Like I was like,
Yes.
oh, we're not doing that.
Yes. Yeah.
But when I
Oh, yeah.
and I could feel it really deeply resonating with me. And there was also a sadness in me that because
Yeah.
I wasn't doing it, when
Ah,
I actually took the steps and started doing it, there was a relief and a sense of freedom. There was also, some level of anxiety and anticipation because I thought, oh my God, I don't know how this is going to go,
right.
but in a positive, flowing way. So life was flowing,
Yeah.
and I think that's what when
Ah,
people can look for, that
mm,
it does bring
yeah.
peace and calm, but it can also cause a little
Hmm.
bit of interpretation, as in, oh my God, I don't know how this will go, but in a positive frame,
Yeah.
and it will pull you into the direction that you actually want to go. And this is your soul talking to you. This is
Yes.
not your logical mind.
Right.
And this is also where archetypes operate. Archetypes
Mm,
operate on the soul level. They have a deep, they call you on a deeper level of motivation. And as you said earlier, we don't know where this is coming from, but it's there.
right.
And
Right.
and that's what makes archetypes then also very sort of magnetic.
Ah,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah.
So this is a good moment to talk about archetypes. What are archetypes, and and how do we? I know you have a section in your book how to identify them, our own archetypes. So again, your book, beautiful title though. I love the title of your book, "The Free Spirit of Your Life Purpose." So yeah, I would love to hear about the archetypes now, Jacqueline.
um, yeah, maybe let's start with the title, because it's a little bit cryptic also. The free spirit is an archetype.
Mm,
And when I say or mention an archetype, people know exactly with one word, free spirit, they have a comprehension of what that means.
yeah.
And the life purpose, our life purpose, I saw it as a free spirit, because the free spirit
Mm,
archetype doesn't care what the norm is. It doesn't care how much money you make. It is a free spirit,
mm,
and and it and the free spirit follows, what the free spirit wants to do, and sometimes it's against the norm. And
yes.
that's what the life purpose is. The life purpose is not sort of a fluffy, beautiful thing. It is also, but it can be very challenging. It can mean that you have to stand up against the norm. And that's sort of where the title was crafted. So I've
Yeah.
crafted an archetype in there, but
Yeah.
um, it's not necessarily so easy to see. And that's what the power of archetypes
Mm.
are. They are our innermost ways of being, our deeper motivation. And we have many, we can relate to all of them. And there are hundreds and I would say over thousands of
Wow.
archetypes.
Yeah. Wow.
And they have a mythical character because we as a human evolution put them there.
Yeah.
The hero, the princess, the healer, the shaman, the witch, the guide, the mentor. These are all archetypal patterns,
Yeah.
and they relate to us on a deeper instinctual level. For example, if and we have usually core, like I said, I mean, I'm working with the concept of 12 archetypes that are core to us. They do not go away and they show up at different times. For example, I have the seeker archetype. That
Yeah.
shouldn't be a surprise
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
was seeking. I have a mediator, which helped me greatly at work because I was mediating major projects where teams were stuck in conflict.
Yeah.
And this is a lens through which we see the world. For example, talking about the mediator, if I was starting a new job, for example, my view was collaboration, which
Yeah.
is a mediator's view. And when I saw teams not collaborating, I thought, no, we need to fix that.
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize when I
Mm.
started the work with archetypes, some archetypes were not a mystery to me, like the seeker or the alchemist is another one, or the mentor. But the mediator was. The mediator caught me off guard. Wasn't aware of it, and I wasn't aware of the power of the mediator
Yeah.
and how often it shows up. So archetypes are
Wow.
really, we cannot really avoid them as such. If I have
Mhm.
an artist in me, it wants to be expressed.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so
Wow.
and because there's a construct of quite a few archetypes, they also can have a dynamic
Right.
that, for example, I have a mediator archetype, I also have an outcast child. And there's
Ah.
a dynamic between the two of them sometimes where both um, can move into the direction that we want to create collaboration and kindness and understanding. And also the outcast child can view from the outside in and see issues.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the
Yeah.
mediator can disappear in, like, psychologically disappear in mediating by being maybe not having the confidence. And then
Ah.
the outcast child can feel that sort of, oh, I'm outcast, people don't like me. And then
Mm.
they can both actually work in the shadow parts of it. And they
Ah.
can both actually dynamically um, um, sort of exaggerate, let's say, the concern, the issue, the shadow, the lack of confidence, and become very ineffective. So there's a lot of stuff happening,
Wow.
and it's fascinating, yeah. And understanding this dynamic, for example, I now understand my dynamic with the outcast child and the mediator. And I've worked on my outcast child. It very rarely shows up, oh my god, people hate me,
Yeah.
I'm rejected.
Yeah.
But it can, and it
Mm.
can be triggered, and
Yeah.
then it just spools off a program, but I'm just able to catch it
Yeah.
early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That is amazing. So, a question that came to me is the so it looks like from that perspective that we have no free will. But yeah, talk to me about the archetypes in free will. Uh,
Ooh, this is a topic, free will.
Yeah.
Um, Free will. So my perspective on free will, um, there is, like, we do have a lot of programming. Let's say, well, we are born into a certain culture, we are born into a certain family, and psychologically we evolve and we develop certain behavior mechanism. So
Yeah.
when I look, and we are in an educational system, so there is a lot of sort of knowledge, programming, beliefs that
Yes.
are, you could say, imprinted on us.
Right.
And if I'm not aware of this,
Mm.
I
Mm.
react out of these beliefs.
Yeah.
That is not free will, but it may occur as free will. Oh,
Right.
I made this decision to do this. No, actually, I was so primed that I had no other choice than do
Right.
this decision. That's not free will. The
Mm.
other, so
Right.
let's say, you've done many hours of coaching with me, and you've let go of many of these beliefs, and you can see through it. And what my next level of perspective then is with free will is that we are born as a certain person, like a rose is a rose, a tulip is a
Mm.
tulip. If the tulip wants to become the rose because it thinks the rose is so pretty, I want to be a rose, it
Yeah.
doesn't work.
Right.
The tulip is a tulip, and the mother nature in animals and plants, they just accept who they are or surrender into it. I mean, I wouldn't say surrender, but and
Mm.
we human beings, we often try to be something different. And I think surrendering into, okay, I'm whatever that mystical being Jacqueline is,
Yeah.
and Valeria, we are different, and accepting I'm me, and that's where the
Right.
freedom comes in. And it's not
Uh,
around, or
mm.
the free will, there's
Mm.
not around being something I'm not. It's more
Mm.
around surrendering, this is who I am, and it's an ongoing mystery which
Uh,
evolves through life,
uh,
and accepting this, and this is my free will.
yeah.
It's and
Wow.
and and from this, for example, when we spoke
Yeah.
about intuition, the intuition, the call comes, like me, the call come, but virtually I had someone ticking on my shoulder and saying, Jacqueline, I think you need to leave the corporate world, and it becomes somewhat a mentor, a coach or something.
Mm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the free will for me was to accept it.
Mm.
And and it and and it sounds like it's not free will. I think the universe doesn't have a concept of free will. I think we've put it there. That's my perceptive. But when I surrendered into, okay, I'm doing it. It's okay. I'll go this
Mm.
path.
Yeah.
The sense of freedom arose within me.
Mm.
And you could say, but that's restricted. It wasn't, because it's my calling, or I might have many callings. Everyone has many callings. It's not just one.
Right.
And I think that's freedom is a concept that is quite sort of complex, and I think that we human beings have put it there, and the universe knows no free will. Maybe.
Wow. Yes, it very much resonates true with me. I mean, you said in a way that I don't think I ever heard that this way before. I did from spiritual teachers, but now, yeah, I was not expecting to hear the same thing from you. That's really beautiful. I mean, I have to say beautiful because there's
It
something about the truth that's really, it is beautiful, isn't it? To just realize that.
It is. It is. I mean, it's so interesting
Yeah.
because I just in June I took a little bit of time off just because I could, and I wanted to have a bit of time out, and I also reflected on the work that I'm doing.
Yeah.
Did a lot of morning quiet walks and meditations,
Yeah.
and sort of information,
Yeah.
guidance came through, and
Yeah.
also some quite in-depth guidance around my coaching and psychology, and and I had these moments where I felt, oh my God, this is amazing, this is so true, and I was so happy fundamentally, just because I tapped into truth, exactly how you said, and I felt, oh my God, and I felt such a
Yeah.
happiness about that. It
Yes.
wasn't about knowledge. Oh,
Right.
I now know this. No, it was about I tapped into a truth,
Yes.
a deeper layer of truth, how the psyche works, and
Yeah.
and I was just, yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, it always amazes me too, to just realize that that's really, The freedom to be here, and this is it. And I mean, I love the way you said that it's a human concept, that we are often trying to establish, define what freedom is from our own filters, but it doesn't work
Hmm.
because freedom has no filters in the first place. It can be anything, anywhere, anytime, or no time at all, or space. It's just completely free. Oh,
Yeah,
um,
yeah. So,
yes.
yeah, free will is an interesting one. I didn't expect that question to come up, and I don't think I've ever explained it like this. I did think about it a lot and internalized free will. So, yeah, thanks for letting me
Mm.
explain this for the first time.
Yes, and something that resonates here and with a lot of people that I talk to as well. In my readings, in my studies, I'm a student of Vedanta, so it really
Yeah.
resonates. I mean, it just comes together. So, is this the idea of, let's say, the idea of free will that you just explained, the awareness of what's happening, the dynamics of how we are unfolding as a flower would? I love that too, and that's true. Is that, would you say that that would lead us to life purpose? And what is the big picture of the purpose of life?
Again, you have a very good and deep question. I mean, we do often attach life purpose to something like, I'm a coach, and
Yes.
I feel drawn to this. I feel drawn to the general sort of mentoring and coaching people, open perspectives, having communications. And when I even take a step back from that, I see my life purpose is just to discover the truth, learn about myself, become a more authentic, become an authentic person, be present. So all these aspects that have me be truly who I am,
Mm.
that's my life purpose. That's how I see it. And in my younger years, I had a life purpose to study physics. I was drawn to it. I didn't study it because I actually wanted to have a career in physics. I studied it because I wanted to learn, but I was drawn to it. And then I was drawn to enter the business world because I wanted to learn more about people. So I thought, go and
Mhm.
enter the business world. And this is a life purpose also, but it can change. My being a mother is a life purpose also, but I think in the greater picture it is about becoming the authentic person that I am from within, being present, being kind and generous, and practicing that every day, every minute. That's almost impossible. You have to be
Yeah.
enlightened.
Yes.
Obviously, that's my path.
Mhm.
And I think while I'm doing this, I
Yeah.
might as well be generous and share this with other people.
Mm.
That's kind of my philosophy and the way I see life purpose.
Yes, and a truly beautiful one again. Wow, and I love the way you say that too. And you said it earlier about this discovery of truth and how happy it makes us. There's something about it. It's
Yeah,
almost like it liberates joy immediately from
it
within,
is.
doesn't it? So,
It is.
and ironically, that's what it seems like we're all looking for as human beings, to find, the realm of happiness and joy and peace. And that's is exactly where we find exactly the way you described, by going within, by uncovering what's already here. It's just a
Mm,
lifelong journey anyway. And I love the way you say that too. So while I am on this journey, why not share the experiment with everyone else? That's even more fun, isn't it, when we kind of come together?
it is. And it helps to open our perspective when we share with other people.
Yes.
We're sitting here right now. I've never met you. You heard it
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
other on
Yeah.
the other side of the globe.
Yes.
And you're asking this really deep and interesting question, which helps me to also formulate and helps me even to change my perspective, to learn something from you. And I think that's what humanity or human beings are about. We're
Yes.
social creatures.
Yes, yes, absolutely. As long as we are open and the learning, curiosity, to me, they're just the treasures of life. Being open. Yeah, when I start reading your book about archetypes, I had already, of course, be in touch with the topic because I talk to a lot of people and I'm exposed to a lot of these knowledge. And then what came to me also right away after reading, being open as much as I could uh, to the idea that we are parts. There's lots of parts of us, like it's a system, really, which life is. What came to me was the teachings that I engage myself in my practices, which is focusing on awareness. What is showing me the content of experience. So everything that I experience is the content. It could be real, could not, could be just dreamlike, who knows. But there's something here that is aware of all this, that's really capturing all these experiences, the body sensations and the emotions, the memories. And that's where, for some reason, that's where my attention goes to. What is here that's open this up? All this is a movie, as a window. And
Yeah.
that's how do you see that, Jacqueline? There's awareness itself, consciousness, pure consciousness. What is your ideal understanding of consciousness?
Like I I sometimes think of it when I was, let's say, 5 years old.
Yeah.
And I looked into the mirror and I saw myself. But I do also remember, I don't know whether it's 5 or 7 or something. And I do remember that I was seeing myself as this person, but I also had a sense, uh, something, like behind me, a sense there is something bigger. That sense hasn't changed. Like that is the
Right.
same sense that what I have today when I look into the mirror.
Yes.
And that's this,
Yeah.
this awareness part. Obviously, it's very, very difficult for us to put words to it because our language just cannot describe, because it's indescribable, but it's there.
Yeah.
Um, and it's also very difficult not to use the logic and the brain too much. It's really a sense of tapping into this sort of sense, as if that, you also use the hand like this.
Yeah.
That's all I can
Yeah.
use. It's like
Yeah.
almost everywhere. And like, for example, yesterday I worked from home, and I had a lot of tasks to do, and I was really into it. I was actually really enjoying it.
Yeah.
And I love preparing content.
Yeah.
And I also have I have this this method. I do 45 minutes focused work, and then I take a break. But I was so into
Yeah.
it that I didn't do it. And then I felt this narrowing view of myself. I felt, oh my God. I said, I need to take a break. And I sort of, just was with myself. And then I saw, all of a sudden I started to expand again and to relax again. And I feel a sense, oh yes, that's right. There is more
Yeah.
about me than that, physical body.
Yes.
And yeah, it's very difficult to explain, but it is an experience. And I would say, from the way you described it, we have the same experience. And um,
Yeah.
often I think, are we all tapping into the same,
Mm.
whatever that big thing is,
Mm.
and,
Yeah.
and being with that. And it's this absolute place of
Yeah.
bliss and heaven. And I usually, I can capture that for a few seconds, and then it dissipates again because my mind
Yes.
comes in. Mm.
Right, right. And the interesting thing about consciousness, what I have found out is that is maybe the reason why it's really not easy to describe, to focus on. Like I just said, I focus my attention. It's because it's not an object, and
Mm.
we are very much interested in objects, right? Like the body and the mind, objects, the mind with its contents of memories, thoughts. They're subtle, but they are objects of
Yeah.
experience. So we are not really trained to kind of just like you say, I think I heard the word being a lot on your
Yeah.
insight, right? Being, which we all share, is this beingness, being here, spaceless, timeless here. In that sense, that freedom, like this free, I love the word, I love the way you say free spirit. Yeah, it's completely free and it's here, it's everywhere. But it's not that everything is, that consciousness is in everything, everything's in it. And maybe that's why so it takes us so long, and it's almost like we have to focus, we have to practice really hard to be able to realize it, to recognize it, and not really see it. We can't see it, but we can recognize it.
Yeah, that's a good word, using recognition.
Yeah.
And I got a sense, already, as a young person, I was maybe 18 or so. I was diagnosed with depression, but I it was only for a brief period, and I realized I'm not sick, and I kind of just stopped taking the medication, and I was fine.
Yeah.
And no, I'm not saying that this is the case for everyone. This
Right.
was just the case for me. So I mean, they are severe mental depressions. But I was diagnosed as having depression. I realized many years later it was a transformational process which we
Mm.
as human beings go through,
Yeah.
and it's part of that, and it doesn't feel good.
Yeah. Mm.
But but at that time, I realized for myself that the brain is like a little bit of a trap. It traps us because I sensed, "Oh, okay, this is my brain
Yeah.
doing this with me. So I have to circumvent my brain, but I can only use my brain to circumvent my brain."
Right.
So it was really, really a catch 22. But I
Yeah.
got, I
Yeah.
thought, there's something with the brain.
Yeah.
It's like the middleman, and you
Right.
have to trick it. That's
Uh,
that's the thing. You have to trick it
mm.
at
Yeah.
times, and I got this sense where we it's almost like the brain is like a filter. It doesn't let us
Mm.
sense or
Mm.
perceive or recognize what is more, what is there as well.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and I think as soon as the brain ticks in,
Yeah.
we lose the connection.
Mm. Yes. Yes, that's exactly it. That's, I know you have a background in science, and I know that that's where science really, the studies, everything based on science has to do with phenomena, has to do with what can be perceived with the brain, right, and all that. And I don't think we can get to uh, the heart of awareness, the heart of what life really is, going through science. I think one thing that science has in common with spiritual seekers, for example, would be trying to find the truth. They are
Yeah.
trying to find the truth. I think there's a direct path. I keep thinking about the direct path. What is a direct path to truth? That will be my own experience. What am I experiencing now? And then that is just, I experience the body, the mind, the thoughts, the sounds, but that cannot be me because I am perceiving them. There's something here that all this is happening under. That must be what spiritual philosophies call consciousness or pure consciousness. And from my experience, which is not an experience to realize awareness, it cannot be experienced because it's the experience that happens uh, in it. So you can only experience what is happening, but you can't really and realize that there's something here that all experiences are happening under, but you cannot really tap into it. But through meditation and deep inquiry and reflection, contemplation, and all that, those practices, I see, it's now easier to see it everywhere, and it's just it's almost
Mm.
like you said, it's getting out of the brain itself. It's almost like it's an out of body experience, but it not an out of body experience at the same time, in body out of body,
It is,
right?
it is, it is
Hmm.
so. I mean, I totally get what you're
You
talking
do.
about.
Yeah.
I do, and it's such a challenge to put it in words. And
Ah,
I think you mentioned one thing which really caught my attention also, is that we we don't have to actually look outwards for the truth. We can look inwards, and when we look outwards, for example, in today's world, we have so much connection to information.
Yes.
It's just, first it's bamboozling, it's distracting, it's confusing,
Yeah.
but internally we have the truth. And I often, if I don't know, should I do this, should I do that, there is no person, no someone can tell me what to do,
Right.
but I can ask myself, and I sense my body will be leaning towards one direction.
Yeah.
And I think we have lost this also. Often I see this in parenting. um, when my daughter was little, we were in Australia and we didn't have any family here. And we came back to Germany when she was 2, and then we migrated later in Australia. And I just listened to, my intuition. Okay, she's a bit sick. That's okay. I don't have to panic. I can do this. This is what grandma used to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
So, but you can ask yourself, and you have to, because you're
Yes.
not going to find the information outside.
Right.
And what I also found, it's also like a process. Again, the logical mind wants to have a yes or no. Is
Yes.
this right? Is this wrong?
Right.
But
Right.
sometimes it's neither or, it's a process. Then we take one step and then we realize, oh, now we have to take this step in a different direction.
Right.
It occurs to the mind it's the wrong way, but it's not. It's a process. We
Right.
just found out this isn't working, so we're doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it.
Our Yeah, that, I mean, our mind is a tool. It is a tool,
Yes. Right.
and good for you if you have a well-functioning mind, and you can, you have a reasonable intelligence, because it will make life easier. It's
Yes.
a tool.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
Of course. And um, what you said, something that caught my attention too, about the outside world, and then can become very confusing and it's just too much information to take in. And sometimes we're just some of us are very ambitious. We want to learn a lot and pass that on. But I see them as now as entertainment in a way. It's kind of fun, the whole thing. It's like, oh my God, how fun this is. But just even my own, even the thoughts in the mind, when they come and they're negative and they're dark, and I see the fun of it. It's like, oh, a negative thought. How interesting. Where does it come from? And then I see the body entertaining the negativity. See, but there's that awareness is always there. I go back to it. Like, oh, okay, I catch it. I catch something, being aware of whatever it is. And that's what makes it fun. It's almost like watching a movie. Okay, it's a sad movie. Now it's a happy one. Now it's a tragic one. My God. And then the body's reacting to it and all that, turbulence. But it's just but we can only experience life from that perspective once we go deep enough to see what really is. And I really
Yeah.
believe that the work you do with archetypes will lead us to that path.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
And the archetypes, I mean, they live in a symbolic domain, or there's a symbolic language, very similar to what you've said. You become the observer and you
Yeah.
watch the storyline.
Yes.
And rather than being caught in it, you want to stay out a little bit from a different perspective and see the learning lesson.
Yeah, sometimes you get caught in it, which is like watching a movie and all of a sudden you're crying because the actor just something badly happened to the main character. And but then it's a moment and then you
Yeah.
realize, oh, it's just a movie. And then you go
That's
back to
right.
it,
So
right?
it's just,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, yeah. And I also think, I mean, I love that you use the word that you can laugh about it. I mean,
Yes.
I also, I noticed um, that we've lost a little bit the humor in the last two, three
Yeah.
years.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
when we cannot laugh about our own absurdities, and I
Yeah.
don't mean laugh about severe, violence and these things, but our
Yes.
absurdities, and
Yes.
we can't be humorous about it, then there's something severely wrong.
Right.
And I think we've we've had comedians being cancelled and so forth, and but they're
Oh, yeah.
coming back now. And I
Yeah.
think we need to take to hey, let's take a step back and see the irony in some things.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I don't think that can be practiced, Jacqueline. That part of it's very spontaneous. All this it just happens, and then you just realize, oh, this is it's just I'm just watching the whole thing. But then sometimes there's the cry, there's the really the pain, and then you feel the
yeah,
pain, and then what can I do about it? It's almost like you're seeing the movie is actually the main character is you, and the story is unfolding, you have no idea what will happen, and then well, but there's something you can do about it. Maybe we can change the path of the character, and who knows, maybe if I do this. And that's where intuition to me comes into play. It's like, okay, maybe I would just stop and listen and see how I can help the character to get to where he wants to get. But still, I don't lose track, I don't lose the sense, the knowledge that that's a character, that this body
yeah,
mind complex is a character. That's where it makes, I think it makes life, make this experience much more peaceful. The word that I use usually is peaceful, not happy, because it can be happy, sad,
mm,
and everything, but it's peaceful. There's a sense of there's a powerful ground of peace. It's coming from that knowledge. I know that I never die, that whatever is here has been here, is here, will always be here. So it doesn't disappear. It's always here because it has been here with me. So when it comes to the archetypes, is that is also a practice, is something that we constantly learn more about it. You mentioned earlier, but this become almost like a spiritual path in the sense that I just mentioned, getting us to that deeper truth. It could.
yeah, yeah. That's definitely archetypes are leading into the spiritual path, and the book that I published is for the novice. So it's for someone who's never heard about archetypes and to present the topic. But in my teaching, my workshops, and my coaching, we go a lot further. It is about the spiritual
Yeah.
path.
Yeah.
And it is about sort of, like you did, explain, distance yourself, or have a different perspective on the
Yes.
storyline of your life.
Yes.
Um, and there's also, it's perfectly fine to be sad. It's
Yeah.
it's a feeling we have. And I think sometimes we get caught up in the story, and that makes certain feelings worse. And as a coach, I pull it
Mm,
apart. There
yeah.
is sadness, which is perfectly fine.
Right.
And then there is also a story around it, which makes it often convoluted
Right.
and the feeling worse. So once that's pulled
Mm,
apart and you experience just a feeling of sadness, there is still, this inner peace that
yeah.
you described.
Yeah.
It's there at the
Yeah.
same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's it. Yeah. 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 That's it. That's it. And you see the title of your book, The Free Spirit of Your Life Purpose. So you include the word free and spirit, right? And you said that's an archetype too, which to me it's more like a universal one. That would be
Mm,
yeah, freedom and yeah,
definitely.
that's yeah.
There are some archetypes like the hero, the free spirit, the healer. They are universal, and they are being there from, a very long time with us.
Yeah.
And they are also sort of archetypes that we are developing right now
Uh,
as a sort of human evolution. But the free spirit, the storyteller, the healer, the hero,
yeah.
they are very, very old archetypes.
Yeah. It's yeah, it kind of when I see the words even, it kind of I'm drawn to them in that sense, almost like intuitively. That's what I felt like. Oh, they're universal. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Ah,
They are universal, so it doesn't matter which
yeah.
cultural background. They are universal. Everyone understands the hero. Doesn't matter whether you're in Japan, Germany, Australia. It
Yes.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The same with the free spirit. And I get a little bit, the free spirited mind in you. So maybe, maybe there's something for you to look at. Maybe that's one of
Yeah,
your archetypes. I
yeah,
really get that you're very, very drawn to it, and I think you live a free
yeah,
spirited life.
yeah,
And also, that you said, I'm done with, New York, which is a beautiful
yes,
city. I love New
yeah,
York,
yeah.
but I'm going to Florida for
Ah,
whatever reason. And I get that. That's the free spirit saying,
yes.
need to go somewhere else.
Right. Yeah, that would make a lot of sense. And I have made choices. I don't know. It feels like that's why I asked the question about free will, because I really don't believe in it. Because a lot I really don't. A lot of times I made choices that in a way I knew they were not the best choices for the character, because I didn't know. I intuitively I knew that something was leading to something else. So I had to go through whatever it was. So the choice was
Yeah.
made. Isn't that interesting? So and maybe that's why the free
Mm.
spirit that would resonate with that. It's not. It's free
Yeah.
to make all kinds of choices, not just the good ones, the flowery ones, or that it perceives to be a good one. It's just it's willing to go through what it needs to go through
Mm.
to get to truth. Really, that has been the perspective of that, whatever you call it. I know you call it an archetype, so that part in here that's guiding that part, it's very interesting. And I hear I do a lot of things, energy healing, a lot of other kinds of work, readings, and all that. And I hear many things. That's at some point I had to let go, because I didn't want it to acquire that kind of knowledge, in a sense of knowing even too much about, because that would take the fun too. In a way, I like the fun, I like the mystery. I didn't want to know at all, so I would kind of, oh, now I'm in control. I don't want to, I didn't have wanted to have
Oh,
that sense of that I'm controlling whatever's happening here.
yeah.
That might
Yeah.
be part of that free spirit one,
I
right?
was just about to say that. That
Yeah,
sounds very, very free
yeah,
spirited, and I
yeah.
love that. I also love the idea.
Uh-huh.
No, I don't want to know everything. I want to
Yes, yes,
experience.
yes,
Want to go my own path. And
right.
that's why we're here. We're here to go our own path.
Yes, because there's a sense of trust in that too, that even if I get lost on the path, I know that I can listen to the intuition. I'm
Yeah.
ready. I'm open to listen to it. Okay, show me the path now. I'm lost. I got myself in trouble, in serious trouble. And that happened many times, Jacqueline. You have no idea.
Oh.
Let's not get into it, go into it too deep. So we're almost at the end. It has been wonderful. Wow, I love your presence. You have this very calming, very open, and ah, I might be perceiving awareness itself, consciousness. It's just so beautiful. You have this beautiful, beautiful presence, like a flower that
Oh.
really surrendered to its growth, development to become what it's supposed to become. So it's truly beautiful to see that
Oh,
human
thank you.
being. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Oh my God, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I really loved our conversation, and it was a true dance. And I loved how intuitive and attentive you are, and kind and welcoming and open.
Ah, yes.
Curious, yeah. So it got us to some interesting questions, and I really loved that you asked those questions, and I had an opportunity to respond.
Ah,
So that was awesome. I really enjoyed it.
mm, thank you. I don't even know if I can say thank you to that, because it's just here. I don't even know what it comes from. So another, let me see. There's something else that I wanted to. Oh yeah, I love the
Mm,
way in the book you talk about the soul is the vessel of truth. There was more to it, but that caught my attention too. The
mm,
soul is the vessel of truth. Yes.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
wow, that's beautiful. I forgot that I wrote that.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
And then we are almost at the end here. I know I lose track of time all the time. Well, who cares about time when we are in the timeless, right? Timeless conversations. So I have all these notes here. I will go to the end. So I would love for you, actually, because I have these ending questions. I usually ask a question or two. Is there anything that you left unsaid, you feel, Jacqueline, or a passage in your book that you would like to read? I know you mentioned that off record too. That this will be the time. Will be wonderful.
Yeah, I can read the passage
Yeah.
if it's not too much time because we've already
Yes. No.
taken up a
Please.
lot.
Please.
Um, so it's one page of the book. It's a page about sometimes we have certain gifts, archetypal gifts, the artist, and or other gifts, and we want to live them in a certain way, but life doesn't always give us the opportunity. But
Right.
it's a section where it shows it's about my grandmother, and it
Mm.
shows that you can still live that part in you, even though it doesn't look the way you initially thought it should look.
Yes. Beautiful. Yeah.
And it's my favorite section in the book. It's about my grandmother,
Yeah.
and it makes me emotional at times when
Yes.
I read it.
Yes. Please. And I made a note of that. Right. Big in big letters here. Yes. Yes.
Um, so my grandmother was a good example of how to stay connected to one's dreams and calling. She dreamt of becoming a singer while all the odds were stacked up against her. She went through two world wars and endured the Great Depression in between. She was born just before the First World War into a strict Catholic family that had strong views on discipline and what a young girl needed to learn to prepare herself as a woman. Her parents had already determined that she would learn useful skills of cooking, mending, and cleaning in a school for young women that focused on teaching those skills. Considering the period in history, that was actually a step up from the education most other young girls received at the time. My grandmother was granted an education that would help her in the future when she would like marry and raise a family.
Yeah.
Her parents had the best intentions with this plan, and indeed, it was a plan for a young woman of that time. Until one specific day in my grandmother's life changed everything. A day when her eyes were opened to a whole new world of possibilities. This day started like any other, only this day my grandmother ran into a group of street performers.
Mm.
She had never seen people like this and was completely mesmerized. These performers had a horse and carriage, they
Huh.
were wearing interesting and exotic
Yeah.
clothing, and above all, they were artistic and they sang. My grandmother loved singing. Singing was in her soul.
Mm.
She followed those street performers the entire day. My grandmother could really sing. She had a beautiful voice and she was gifted with the vibrato
Huh.
and therefore had genuine talent to become an opera singer. Before,
Yeah.
before meeting those street performers, she probably didn't even know that there was such a thing as an opera singer. But
Yeah.
now the idea of becoming one occupied her entire being. And then she came home. In a single moment, the stage collapsed in one big fell swoop beneath her feet. Her parents were not impressed, to say the least. And I can understand why, given the difficult times in which they were living. How could they possibly, as good Catholic people, allow their daughter to live such a frivolous life as a opera singer, as it was perceived at the time? True to her parents' wishes, my grandmother attended the school for young women. She then married my grandfather, had four children, and put all her learned skills to good use. But she also found a way of giving her singing a life that it deserved. She sang everywhere she could.
Mm.
She sang in the church choir, she sang at weddings, she sang at celebrations. In fact, she continued out singing everyone else around her
Mm.
until well into her 80s.
Yeah.
Ah, it always gets me.
Yes, I read that too, and I made a note. Right, a mother, a wife, a singer. So that was,
Yeah.
yeah, that was her. It's interesting. Some part is it's the archetypes, in which you say that they are actually guiding us to the soul's desire, to the soul's longing. Anyway, So singing represents that beautifully too.
Yeah.
Singing.
Yeah, and I believe that my grandmother also had the mother archetype as one of her archetypes, so that needed to be expressed as well.
Yes.
So yeah, life works in mysterious ways.
It does. How beautiful. A curious question. I know we're almost at the end. I had the ending question here, but before that, have you heard about human design? Is that somehow similar
I
to
have I have heard about it, and I have sort of created my
that?
report.
Yeah.
I found it very interesting.
Right.
And it really also resonated, although it was a concept. Wow, that's interesting.
Yes.
But the actual report resonated with me. I could find myself in this
Yeah.
concept, but it's very different to archetypes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is. There are so many different ways of looking at the human psyche and
Yeah.
spirituality. So that's just another way of looking at it.
Yes.
The archetypes really have sort of this the mythology, the
Mm.
story, the light and the shadow, and they're connected to our soul.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
yeah, so it's just a very different concept.
Right.
So I would use both.
Yes.
That
Right.
yeah,
Why not? And I know the archetypes were explored by Carl Jung. I think
yeah,
you mentioned in
that's
the book.
right. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
he was very much interested in that too. So thank you again for your beautiful presence. And before we say goodbye for today, two questions. I'll ask this one and then the technical one at the end about how to find you. Um, what comes to mind when you think about three experiences you wish everyone to have before they lose the body, before they die?
I think the experience of who they truly are, even if it only comes through in glimpses.
Yeah.
We often lose that connection, but really get in touch to who they are, and um, and also experience the kindness and love that a person can have towards themselves
Uh,
as well as other people.
yeah.
And I think also adventure and fun,
Mhm.
really experiencing stuff. If you want to go bungee jumping, go and do bungee jumping. Sort of these things
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
that we really
Uh,
enjoy life in all its aspects and what it has to offer.
mhm. Yes. What can I say? You also have lots of wise answers to give. Not short than that. It's truly beautiful, though, to just see human beings, because I'm in your presence now, so I see this how beautiful is it is. Humans who have gone deep enough, who are open to life, to just to uncover, discover, and and just share that with others. It's truly, truly, truly beautiful. Thank you so much again, Jacqueline, for being you.
Thanks.
And the ending question: where's the best place or the best places to find more information about you and your work?
Well, you can find me on my website, nhedwana.com.au.
Yeah.
I'm also on YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn under my name as well as my business name, which is nhedwana.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can find the book on Amazon. And for the Australian viewers, there's free shipping directly from my website on the book. And I think that's where you can find me.
Yes, I'll have those links on the podcast, on this
Thank
podcast
you.
beauty profile. And out of curiosity again, in Hedwana, it sounds good to the ear, the sound of it. What is the meaning of the word, if it is one word altogether?
Well, it is, yeah. Enheduana, there are a couple of different spellings, but Enheduana is a name of a high priestess in the Middle Eastern um, um, area. She lived about 2,300 years before Christie, so BC, so 2000, um,
Wow.
and um, she was the daughter of a great king, one of the greatest empires the world has seen, king. And she, yeah, and I kind of connected
Wow.
with her because she had this sort of mediator. She was a spiritual person as well as very connected to the people.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to take on that name because I'm walking in big shoes here. And when you
Wow.
search it, you get a lot of the history of Enheduanna. It's usually spelled with two N. I took the version with one N. Yeah, and that's where the connection comes from. So hopefully I'm doing her proud.
Yes, very much. That's it was intuitive, the question too, so that makes
Yeah,
sense to end like this
yeah,
too.
yeah.
That's the
I was,
embodiment of that.
that's right.
Yeah, thank you so much again, and we'll talk soon. Bye for now,
Okay,
Jacqueline.
thank you.
Beautiful,
Bye.
Jacqueline.
Bye.
Bye.